Hey there, friend. So today I'm going to be chatting with you about how to get repeat customers on Etsy. I'm Lindsay Ashworth from A Touch of LA LLC, and I help women create printables so they can use their creative skills to make passive income on Etsy. Now, one thing I want to share with you before I get started is that I used to actually create and sell party decorations on Etsy and realized quickly that it wasn't scalable, and I was burnt out from all of the work that it took to run a handmade business on Etsy. And that's why I made the switch to printables, because now I can still use my creative skills, but I don't have to do so much work. If you can relate to that, I'm so glad you're here. Now, we might just think that our fabulous digital products on Etsy are enough to keep customers coming back. And that might absolutely be true. But we want to sweeten the pot in any way we can. On average, loyal customers are worth up to 10 times as much as their first purchase. Another great principle to live by is the customer success Pareto principle. I have no idea if I'm saying that right, but essentially it's the 80-20 rule that 20% of repeat customers are responsible for 80% of our revenue. So we all want that, right? Let's start by looking at some survey findings that eRank recently conducted with their customers. And here's what they said. The number one way to keep them coming back was with a coupon code. Then came giving them freebies, followed by nice packaging, and lastly, a personal note. But here's the thing, not all of these apply to us as digital sellers. So we're going to take these things and use them as a starting point and work with them with our digital products. And the very first way that we can do this is through exceptional customer service. Now, this isn't really a surprise, but where does customer service start? Well, it starts from the very first touch point when a customer visits our shop, and that means before they even have a question. So how can we set up our shop so that it makes sure to address their needs from the beginning? We want to make sure that we're setting up our shop to support our customers from the very start. So for example, one of the ways that we can do this is with clear and concise listing descriptions and listing photos, so customers understand what they're getting. Now, I'll give you an example. I was recently reviewing one of my students' listings, and she was selling printable crochet patterns. In her listing photos, there were beautiful photos of the finished crochet product. Now, obviously, someone shopping for a crochet pattern is going to want to know what the finished look of the project is going to be. However, what I encouraged her to do was actually show an additional listing photo that included what the printable actually looks like, without exposing the actual pattern, of course. And the reason that I suggested this was because we want to make it extra clear that the customer won't be receiving the final product that's already made, right? They're receiving the instructions on how to create that product. That is a big part of customer service that we need to do, especially as digital sellers. It is to over-communicate to our customers and leave little to no room for confusion. And the reason for this is that oftentimes, what we have to remember about digital products is that there are still a lot of newbies out there who don't quite understand what a digital product even is. So as a digital product seller on Etsy, you really have to go that extra step to make sure that you're being clear from the start. The next touch point with a customer is obviously going to be when they reach out to you with a question. This is going to be your time to shine. So rule number one, we want to answer them very quickly. Now, this is probably an obvious one, but I didn't want to leave it out. Getting back to customers is probably the number one reason that I get 5-star reviews. My customers seem to be most happy that I'm reachable and can quickly answer their questions. I've noticed that quite a few Etsy sellers really aren't as quick or responsive, and that's where we can win them over. They know they can come back to us when they're shopping for other items, maybe even a custom item, because we're so reachable. And you're gonna win that customer's business over another seller simply for that reason alone. The next touch point in customer service is our communications back and forth. Here's something you probably already know, but I wanna remind you. And that is to use their name when conversing with them. Don't just use the standard responses without customizing it to each customer. Make sure to add their name. This starts to build that like, know, and trust factor, and it's also verifying why they chose to shop on Etsy versus another large retailer to begin with. They want to have that experience that you get with a small business as opposed to a big box store where you have a connection with the seller and get fantastic customer service. If they feel like you're connecting, then they're likely to come back for more. So customer service is a big one to help us bring back our customers. But next up is creating value for the customer where other shop owners seem to fall short. So the question you want to ask yourself is, how can I provide more value to my customers than other shop owners are just not willing to do, right? So let's talk about a few examples. Let's pretend you sell editable files that someone can purchase and then customize. This could be an invitation, a business template, etc. We could make the assumption that everyone knows how to edit a file like this, so we don't really have to coach our customers through it, right? However, as a printable seller myself, I can tell you that it's not the case at all. As mentioned before, so many people are purchasing digital items on Etsy, but many of them are complete newbies to the digital space, and they're hesitant to buy because they aren't exactly sure what they're getting when they hit buy. So the question is, how can you provide value to them so that they feel confident enough to not only consider your product, but ultimately hit the buy now button and come back for more later? One of the ways I like to do this is through my blog. I've created countless blog articles to help my customers with tons of questions that they have when it comes to the things that they buy from my shop. For example, I have blog articles telling them how to edit the files that they purchase from me, as well as the troubleshooting issues that they might run into when attempting to edit. I have articles on what types of paper are the best to print on if you're printing at home, what kinds of printers I recommend for home use, and recommendations for professional printers if they don't want to do that at home. Now, if you're thinking, well, Lindsay, if you're already doing that, then why would I make my own blog to go with my products? Well, that's because I'm not you. And what happens when someone stumbles upon your shop and your products is that you start to build that like, know, and trust factor that I mentioned before. Your customers start to think of you as the expert when it comes to all things that you sell. So even though I personally already have written articles on my blog about how to best utilize my products, you're not only going to have different information than I do, but the information is going to be coming from you, someone they're building that relationship with. So if you can provide value through blog help and articles, I highly recommend it. Now, if you don't have a blog or that seems too overwhelming to you at this point in your Etsy journey, then instead, I recommend that you put together something that your customers can download alongside your product that addresses the same types of challenges and questions that we've talked about. It doesn't have to be super professional. It just needs to help them throughout their entire journey with you so that they want to come back. Now, another way to offer additional support and value for your customers and to keep them coming back is through tutorial videos. Now, as you know, I create party decorations along with other printables. So many of my customers would have questions about how to assemble my products. And I wanted to make sure that they felt comfortable knowing that I was going to support them through the entire process. So I put together tutorial videos explaining how easy it was to DIY themselves so that they felt like the task was completely doable on their own. If you don't sell party decorations, there are plenty of other ways that you can use tutorial videos to provide value to your customers as they browse and purchase your products. For example, if you sell editable items, like I talked about previously, you can walk them through the editing process in whatever software program that you have them use to make the edit. Whatever digital product you're selling, create a short video on the different ways they could use your product or the different ways they could tailor it to work in different circumstances. This might just help them feel that much more confident that you are the person that they want to buy from again and again. And don't forget to tell them in the listing that you've provided this extra support to them, this extra value. Help your customers understand from their first touch point with you that these resources are going to be available to them. One of the many reasons customers don't buy digital items is because they don't know if they can handle the tech or the DIY that comes after the sale. So having this additional support, it encourages customers that they can do it and they don't have to worry. They'll be hitting that buy button and coming back to your shop again and again, knowing that you've assisted them so much through the buying process all the way through. So we've come to our last tip for keeping customers coming back, and that is to keep in touch with your customers. Now, earlier we saw that eRank survey that customers said that providing freebies and coupons were the number 1 and 2 ways to keep them happy. That's great news because those are both great ways to get someone on your email list so that you can keep in touch with them. I teach women to create printables on Etsy, but I also always encourage my students that we don't want to have all of our eggs in one basket. Have you heard that before? This is to diversify. That means growing on Etsy, but always keeping in the back of our minds that we don't own our Etsy shops, right? Etsy does. So when we build an email list, we're not only building our own business on our own platforms, but we're also creating a new way for us to keep customers coming back. When you have your past customers on your email list, you can reach out to them and tell them about new products that you've created. You can talk about seasonal products that they might be interested in, or products that they may have missed in the past, and as a way to provide them even more value. And here's an interesting fact that you might want to know. According to the interwebs, the average conversion rate for email marketing is 17.75%. That means that on average, about 18 out of 100 people who open an email make a purchase. That is huge and goes to show that if you aren't growing your email list to create repeat buyers with your Etsy customers, then you're leaving so much money on the table, my friend. So I hope this was helpful to you as you grow your Etsy shop. I love to get tidbits that increase my profit, so I hope this does that for you too. Now, if you're someone who would love to start making passive income from printables on Etsy, but you just don't know where to start or what to sell, I have a free gift for you today that is going to help you finally decide so you can stop wasting your time and get started right away. So head over to atouchofla.com/niche to get your free training to nail your printables niche. I so appreciate your time today, and I hope to connect with you in the future. I'll talk to you real soon.